Hello, I'm Paul Andrews from G4 Guitar School Ashford, and welcome to tonight's webinar. In this webinar, we'll be looking at the 7 essential guitar skills and focusing on reading. So this is skill number 6, and one of the skills that quite often kind of gets left out. A lot of people focus more on the playing side than the reading side. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Probably one of the main ones being that reading is quite difficult for the guitar. It's quite a difficult instrument to read, so it's a lot simpler to basically not bother and to pick up songs by ear rather than trying to obviously read. So it quite often gets left out. I'd say there is a couple of reasons for that. One being that there is 2 different types of reading music. So that's what we're going to look at right now. So we have tablature and standard notation. These are the 2 main systems you'll see for reading guitar music, tablature being the most common, and tablature consists of 5 lines. Each one of those lines, 6 lines. Each one of those 6 lines is one of the 6 strings on the guitar, and then you place a number on the line you want to play to indicate what fret to play. So this line here would be the low string or the fat string, and this line up here would be the skinny string or the high string, or string 1. And if I put a number, say number 1 on this string all the way up here, or this line which represents the skinny E or thin E string, then it would be telling us to play the first fret on that string. So you can see tablature is quite quick and easy to understand. It's your 6 strings, there's your fret of which, or number, so it'll tell you which fret to play. So it's quite quick to get into, you don't need to worry too much about it. Standard notation, on the other hand, is not just for guitar. Tablature is only used for guitar. Standard notation is used for most kind of instruments. So it's not the strings on the guitar. That's one of the biggest traps people fall into, is thinking that these lines are the strings, just as they were in tab. They are not. There's firstly only 5 lines, and there's 4 spaces between the lines. Each one of those 5 lines and 4 spaces represents a different note. It's then up to the guitarist to memorize those notes on the stave and then memorize where they are to be played on the guitar. So you can see there's 2 things we need to look at here. One is memorizing what the notes are on the stave, and the second is then memorizing where those notes can be played on the instrument. And this, again, this is why standard notation is quite tricky, because we've got to learn those 2 parts. Tablature is quite easy to pick up at first. The disadvantage of tablature is it only shows what to play. It doesn't show how long to play it for. Standard notation shows us both. It shows us what to play and the duration, or how we're going to play it. It has a lot more information as well as standard notation, because it's been around a lot longer. It was basically the main form of a composer writing down their music and other people performing it and creating not an exact copy, but very, very close to it. It kind of gives you all the information you need. Tablature, on the other hand, doesn't. It's a very simple way of writing out, so you can only really perform it quite simply. You have to really listen to the song to pick out the rhythm, for instance. Tablature doesn't show that. Okay, so moving on. We're going to go a little bit more in depth now, looking at the stave. As I say, the stave has the 5 lines, and we have this at the beginning, this scrolling, what we call clef or treble clef. Another word for it is G clef, and it's named a G clef. Once it looks a bit like G, and also it wraps itself around the line which represents G. So as I say, each one of these lines represents a note, and G is the first one. And how this works is, here we go, G, and then we go to the next space, which will be A, the next line, which will be B, space C, line D, space E. So it basically alternates between lines and spaces, and just going along the musical alphabet, which is just the normal alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but we only go as far as G. After G, we go back to A. And we're just alternating. So now we know that that's G. Say the treble clef's role really is to pitch our stave. So we now know the second line up is G. The first line, if we go back, if that's G, the space before is going to be F, the line before is going to be E. And then we keep going. If that's E, there's G, A, B, C will be the space, D will be the line, E will be the next space, and then F will be the last line. So we have E, G, B, D, F. So they're the notes for the lines of the stave. And to help us out, we have a little rhyme. So every good boy deserves fruit. E, G, B, D, F. So a nice easy way to keep that in your head. Every good boy deserves fruit. There's quite a few of these rhymes. You may have heard a few others. Every good burger deserves fries, which one of my kids came up with, which I quite like. Every green bus drives fast. There's so many of these ones. Every good boy deserves fruit. Every good boy deserves football. There's quite a few. But this one seems to work quite well. Every good boy deserves fruit. So that's a good way of remembering the notes on the line with a little rhyme. We're going to move on now to the spaces. Then the spaces aren't too bad. As we said before, we know this is G here, the second line up. So before that is going to be coming F, because it's just like the alphabet. Before G comes F. So the first space is F. Then the next line was G. The next space is going to be A. The next line is B. The next space is going to be C. The next line is D. The next space is E. And to remember that is simply face for the space. So face for the space tells us that we have the words face just going up the spaces there. So F-A-C-E. So really the first goal here is just trying to memorize what line is what and what space is what. That's the first goal. We can't really play anything until we know where these notes are on the stave. Then we can look at where they are actually on the instrument. The first goal is to really get happy with that. So to take that further, you can look online. There's some great games that kind of test you on that, which are really nice. They kind of dance around the stave and you have to press the button to say what note it is. So some really nice ones. Musictheory.net is a good one. So yes, we'll move on. So that's the first kind of half of it, the actual pitch. So knowing what the lines of space are will tell you what the note is. The other side of the coin, if you like, or the other side of it with the notation is how long the sound lasts for. Now, I didn't go over this last week in the rhythm webinar because I was going to go over it today basically, but this kind of comes hand in hand with that. These symbols show us how long a sound's going to last. And in music, we don't talk in minutes, hours, or seconds. We talk in beats. So we have these three symbols, and these are primary kind of symbols. Ones are going to keep popping up and up and up. We have the round circle and the line, the colored in circle and the line, and their names: whole note, half note, and quarter note. They're the names we're going to use. They're the American or German names. And the American names are just a bit more descriptive than the British names. So British name being in semibreve, minim, and crotchet. Semibreve, minim, and crotchet is only really used now in classical. You will not see that in contemporary music. You won't see that in a contemporary guitar magazine like Guitar Techniques or Total Guitar. Unless the person writing comes from more of a traditional background, you won't see it. Websites, again, tend to whole, half, and quarter. It's just a more popular and contemporary way of saying it. Good to know both just in case, but whole, half, and quarter really ones we want to focus on. As you'll see in a minute, they are more descriptive. So the whole note lasts for 4 beats. The half note, 2 beats. The quarter note, 1 beat. Why these names I said a minute ago are more descriptive is the whole note lasts for a whole bar. And in a bar, you have 4 beats. So if it lasts for the whole bar, it must then last for 4 beats because it takes up the whole bar. The half note, half of 4 is 2, takes up 2 beats. And the quarter note, a quarter of 4, be 1. So you can see the names straight away are very descriptive of how long the sound lasts for. So it's quite easy to work out the name if you're not too sure. If you're working with the British names, semibreve, minim, crotchet, there's no description there. It's just trying to remember those names. So it can be a bit tougher. Next thing to look at is these notes in a bit more detail and what they actually are. Again, touched on it very briefly there, but it's definitely want to go in a bit more detail. So the whole note, we have the round circle, as I say. Again, it's placed quite high here. If we can work that out now, remembering our rhyme, face first space. The first space is F, second space is A, third space is C, and fourth space is E. So this is telling us to play an E note. Again, we're not going to worry too much about playing them just yet, but just to show you that we're up here on the E and we've got a whole note. I've put the counting underneath it, and we have our 4s now, which we didn't have before. The 4s tell us that there's 4 beats in the bar. That's our time signature. Now, time signatures can change, but 4/4 is the most common one, so that's one we're going to only look at today. So 4/4 means there's 4 beats in the bar. Our whole note, as we've already said, lasts for the whole bar, so that then lasts for our 4 beats. So if we're going to play that, we would just play on the first count, but not play on the 2, 3, or 4, because that sounds continuing through those 4 beats. So I'll be going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy as that. So there's your whole note. Moving on, we have our half note. Again, taking up half the bar, so 2 beats this time. And you can see my bold numbers now are the 1 and the 3. I'm not playing on the 2 or the 4. So that would sound like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see it's important to count as you're doing it. I'm counting but not playing on the 2 and the 4, but by still counting, I can keep in time. I know when I'm going to basically play the next number. And lastly, we have the quarter notes. So quarter notes are lasting a quarter of the bar, so each one lasts 1 beat. And we're just going to play 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we've gone through the notes on the stave. We know the lines, every good boy deserves fruit. We know the spaces, face for the space. We now know the 3 kind of common symbols, the whole note, the half note, and the quarter note. We know they show to play a note for a certain duration of time, or beats, 4 beats for the whole note, 2 beats for the half note, and 1 beat for the quarter note. So you can see now we understand what the note is, we understand how to work out how long it lasts. The final step now is to put it on the guitar. We haven't done obviously that yet. And this is say where it does get a little bit tricky. This is why a lot of people go to tab and don't come back off it, because there is this extra hurdle to cross. And we're going to start by looking at these 3 notes. So we have E, which is in the last space, F, A, C, E. We have F, which is on the last line, every good boy deserves fruit. And we have G, which is actually sitting on top of the line, which represents G. So that's just the space after the F. And as we said before, it's just the alphabet. So if F was on this line, the space after it's going to be G. So there are 3 notes we're going to focus on today, E, F, and G. Now again, we can work out where they're on the stave. The trick now is coming to working out on the guitar. So I've put together this little picture just to help us out. And the E, F, and G are all along 1 string. We have E as our open, skinny string. We have F on the fret 1 of our E string. And then we have G on fret 3 of our E string. So we now know if we see the last space here, the E note, that is telling us to play the top E. Now, one question that comes up is how do we know that is that E and not the low E? Or string 6, the fat string basically. Quite simply because it's quite high up. The lower the sound, the lower the note will be. So this high E up here, because it's quite high on the stave, is telling us to play the high sounding note. As I said, the next one is F at fret 1, and the third one is G at fret 3. So now we know the notes on the guitar, we can have a go at a couple of exercises. And exercise 1 is just using the note E. All of this whole exercise is not moving at all, it's just on that top E string, on that top space as well, which represents that. But you can see the rhythm is changing. So this is a really good test of putting the rhythm with the note. So I'm just going to quickly play that. So starting from the beginning, we've got 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Simple as that. And then exercise 2 using F, which was first fret on the top E, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And lastly, exercise 3, we have our G note, which was the third fret on the top E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, there's a few nice kind of habits we can look at here, or technique, which would be quite good to do. When we're reading on 1 string, as we are now, the E, F, and G note, F's at fret 1, G's at fret 3. What we want to try and do is use a finger per fret. So first finger would play in the first fret, third finger would play in the 3rd fret. That means then we don't have to move our hand around trying to play those 2 notes. You can have your fingers hovering above and they just have to go straight down rather than move across and down. Benefit of this as well is we really want to be reading the music. You don't want to be looking at your hand at all. You want eyes on the page and have your fingers hovering above the frets so they're just above where they need to go. You don't have to move them around. We want to look to start the exercise, look down, make sure you're in position, and then look at the reading exercise and just try and read it. These are not to be memorized, these are reading exercises. And again, that's a trap a lot of people fall into. They memorize the exercises and they're not reading at all. They're just playing from memory rather than trying to read. Try not to get into that habit. Once you've memorized it and you're not looking at the book, the exercise is basically redundant. You then want to move on to harder or more mixed kind of exercises. This is not the point. It's a reading exercise. And our important thing is not to write the note names above. So again, I have students ask me that, can I write the notes above? It'd be a lot easier to remember. It will be a lot easier to remember, but as soon as you actually see in a book, They won't have that. So then you're back to square one again. So it makes a lot more sense to start how you're actually going to see it in the real world, which you're not going to see the notes on there. Which I suppose is another reason of not putting stickers on the guitar neck, because you have those as well. You could put a sticker, for instance, in the fret one of the E string saying F, so you know that that is your F note. That's good for, I'd say, children, but I wouldn't recommend that really for anyone else, because it's just repetition. It's just doing it again and again and again, and it will get in there. So yes, try to do the stickers, or don't do the stickers, I should say. Don't write the notes or the letters above the notes, because that won't help in the long run. It's just purely memorization. And yeah, have your hand hovering. That's really the main sort of technique bits here to look at. Right, so they are reading the exercises. This is the way to basically start. To continue on with the reading, what we want to start doing then is have lots of nice exercises. If you're a G4 guitar student, you can request a G4 reading book, and that has a very nice progression of reading going across all 6 strings. Each of the 6 strings has either 3 or 2 notes on them, and then you basically work on each string one at a time, and then slowly combine those strings together. So you're playing in what you call open position. So you're playing all near the open, basically, fret. You're playing the open string up to kind of 3rd position, the 3rd fret. And the guitar can be broken down these different positions: open position, 5th position, 12th position, that sort of thing. So you can play in different areas of the neck, but you really want to start down near the open strings. If you're not a G4 student, if you head over to g4guitarmethod.com, you can purchase the basic pack, which will have all the books in it, and one of them will be the reading book. I definitely recommend it. This is where I've got these exercises from. It's a great progressional kind of book. It starts very slowly and builds. Another good book that we use at G4 is the Progressive Guitar Method. That's a great book for reading. It's one we have in our course anyway, mainly again for adults, but I do use it for some kids as well. Another book which builds on top of those, which is a really good one, is Music Reading for the Guitar, The Complete Method by David Oakes. Now this is a Musicians Institute book, sorry, and it's brilliant. It's really good. I use it a lot more for rhythm reading, because it builds up the rhythms really well as looking at reading the pitch. So it basically works both sides of it. So I definitely recommend that book. Obviously a G4 book as well, just to really start getting yourself going. David Oakes one is it is a bit tough. It goes quite quickly into quite difficult exercises. So yeah, I definitely recommend the G4 one to start with. Okay, so thank you for coming along tonight and having a little listen, and hopefully this has been of interest. As I say, reading is an easy one to kind of put at the back of your practice routine and then kind of forget about it. But it only takes, say, 5 minutes a day, and you'll find that it comes on very quickly. It's a great skill, has a lot of benefits, if not for your own playing and understanding of music. Working out where the notes are on the guitar is a great way of reading. So obviously it brings in the actual notes. You're seeing what you're playing a bit more. One of the other things which not a lot of people are aware of, this is a great brain exercise. I try and say that to a lot of my adults that are kind of wary of reading and they don't really want to do it, because it can actually help your brain. It can keep it young. It can keep it kind of ticking over. There's some great studies that have looked into that, and it really works. It's great brain training. So if nothing else, for your health as a guitar player, as your health as a person, it's a really good skill to develop. Okay, so next week I'll be looking at, again, the last part now actually of the 7 essential guitar skills, skill number 7, looking at aural. If you want to sign up for that, I have a bit.ly link set up. So you can go to bit.ly/aural webinar, and that will take you straight to that page. So bit.ly aural webinar to sign up for the next one. And I say that is the last one then in the series. So yeah, we've done pretty well. If you haven't managed to catch any of them up to this point, head over to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/G4guitarashford, and you'll be able to see all the older videos. And any questions, just let me know. Okay, so I'm going to quickly see if we've got any questions from today's webinar, and we don't seem to, so I think we'll call it a day. So thanks for coming along, and yes, I'll see you on next week's webinar. Cheers.